Hello everyone, my name is Timothy Lee Grant. So in the last video, we desperately and very quickly tried to get a SQL database to work. So now in this video, in the last video, we were able to get the database to work. We were able to vibe code it out, essentially. We just got something to work. Now we're going to try to go and investigate, well, all right, how is it working? Why is it working? What is it doing? And ask all of those questions. So let's go and start to investigate. So we imported this database SQL from the current directory, and we have db underscore SQL.js. Okay, so we have this db.js. This one is our mongoose. So this one is the NoSQL. One that we are interested in for this video is this one, which is the SQL one. So now, what is this actually doing? Let's see. Import MySQL from this location and promise. So I'm curious why I need to import this promise here. Okay. Const pool. What is pool? MySQL.createPool. Again, I'm operating on this MySQL object, but I don't know why. And I am setting host to be localhost, user to be root, password is none, database express db SQL. Okay, so this is the name of the database that I'm actually operating on. Okay. So these are the settings. And then I export pool. So I'm just going to go and say, can you explain this line by line? Okay, so import MySQL from MySQL2 / promise. So imports the MySQL2 library, specifically its promise variant. This gives you asynchronous support for using async await, which makes your code much cleaner. Okay. Const pool equals MySQL dot create pool. Which one is my coffee? Just trying to get the coffee one. Okay, here we go. Creates a connection pool, which is like a group of reusable database connections. Reusable database connections. Reusable data. What does that mean? Okay, so number one, this is more efficient than opening and closing a new connection every time you make a query. Okay. I feel like these two things have a connection, but I'm trying to understand that more. So I'm just going to come and do this. Okay. Can you explain this more? What? Yeah, okay, fine. That's fine. Okay, so localhost specifies that MySQL server is running locally on my machine. Okay, so question number 2, this one here. What are the other options? Okay. So if you're hosting the database remotely, AWS RDS, you'd use its IP or domain name here. Okay. I'm not going to do it in this video, but I'm just asking, like, for my understanding, how would I set up that database remotely? Okay. So uses the root user to authenticate here. This user typically has full admin access. Okay, so it means I can do any operation on the database. So for user, let me just copy and paste that. This means I am allowed from my software to perform any operations on my data, on/in my database. Is that correct? What are the other privilege levels? Levels. Okay. Password none. Tells MySQL which database to connect to. This should exactly match the database you created in the command line interface. So that's when I went into the command line and I actually created that database on my local system. So there is a database. It can either be in whatever it said, AWS. What was it? What did I call it? RDS, AWS RDS, or it can be like on my local, but somewhere out there, okay, there exists a database, and that database is called this, and I need to tell my server, my software, where it's located. It's located here. This is its address. This is its name. Okay. So wait for connections. If all connections are busy, this tells the pool to wait rather than throw an error. Okay, yeah, that's nice. Connection limit limits the number of simultaneous connections to my database. Okay, so exports the pool so I can import it elsewhere. So question number 5. When I export the pool, what are the operations that are valid to do on this object? Is it an object? Okay. Actually, I have another question about like why do I need the promise variant? It said that it allows me to do the awaits. Okay. Number 6. What happens if for this one is a different library? Okay, so let's ask those questions, and then we'll need to move on to figure out like, okay, well, from here we export this, we grab it in here, okay, and then how do we operate on it? So that's kind of where we're going. Okay. So, what are reusable database connections? When you use a connection pool, you're creating a set of pre-opened connections to my database. When you use a connection pool, you're creating a set of pre-opened connections to my database. Instead of opening and closing a connection every time a user hits your API. So this keeps a fixed number of connections open, automatically hands out an available connection when needed, returns it to the pool. So you reuse rather than rebuild every time, much faster. What else could go here? So, I mean, this is the local host, right? And I don't need to do the domain name server lookup, okay? Remote IP address if hosting on the remote server, okay? Database dot here, the name. How to set up a remote MySQL database. Install MySQL on a server, Ubuntu, EC2, etc. Edit configurations to allow remote connections. Okay. Create a user with remote privileges. Open MySQL port. Man, why am I not able to pay attention today? My goodness. Let me know if... Okay. So, what are the other... So, I did user root, and it said that that was for, like, highest level privileges, okay? So other privileges include select, insert, update, delete all privileges. Okay, so I can specify like read only, add new rows, modify existing rows, and delete. So I can essentially control access for each of those CRUD operations. Grant, select, insert on here, everywhere to that, okay? What can you do with export a pool object? So execute queries, await, and then pool. And then I execute something. What do I execute? I do a SQL command. So select all from users. So I just go and find users. So now get a raw connection manually. Const connection equals await, pool get connection, and then begin transaction. Destroy connection, I can release it, okay? So these are two separate interfaces. Okay, so that's all I need to know. All right, so I kind of understand what's going on there. Let's come back to here and look at what I have. So I get this pool, right? And now I go and operate on it down here. Okay. So when I go to I do a post request to this register SQL endpoint here. It's asynchronous. And I get the body of that request, okay? And then I can do an execute here. So I'm performing an execute command, okay? What command? It's this one. Now, I don't quite know how or why it's that one, like why that's working. So what I'm going to do is I am going to ask that. So I don't know how these two things are connected. Like I know that name, email, email is connected, but I'm not sure how or why. Okay. Can you explain and how this is working? Okay. This line inserts a new record of users into my database. Yep, that makes sense. The await, so here refers to the MySQL connection pool object you created earlier. Awesome. Execute is a method that runs an SQL query and returns a promise, hence the await, so that we're getting a promise. This allows Node to pause until SQL finishes the query and then move on. So yeah, so I'm going to await until that promise is fulfilled. Awesome. So insert into users, name and email, values, question mark, question mark. This is what I don't understand. So this is the actual SQL statement being executed. It inserts a new row into the users table. Okay. So I understand the SQL language, right? Like insert into users, but I don't understand how how am I dynamically passing name and email in to this string here. So the question mark placeholders are used for parameterized queries, protecting against SQL injection attacks, very important for security. What is an SQL injection attack, and why do the question marks protect against it? Okay. So now these values replace the question mark placeholders above. So if, okay, this is actually what I was going to ask it was, give me an example using any name and any email, right? Give me an example, like what does that actually translate to? What SQL command am I actually sending to the database? And here it's actually giving it to me. So the name is Timothy and the email is myfunemail21@example.com. So now I do insert into users and name and email. So this is the column names, okay? And values, Timothy, and then email. Okay. So execute returns two element array. So we're gonna have to look into this more. So I'm gonna come here. Can you explain this SQL language command more? Okay. So now we have here const result equals this execute return. So we're getting two things back. We're getting the rows and the metadata. Okay, that's going to be stored in this result. For insert rows isn't the rows of data, it's an object describing what was inserted. So this is rows. Okay. This line uses array deconstruction to assign just the first item, rows, into results. So I'm not getting any of the metadata. Okay, so when this line runs successfully, a new user gets stored in my database. The express route can send back that. Okay. So, oops. I meant to delete this 3. Okay, so let's ask those questions. Okay. What is an SQL injection attack? SQL injection is a type of security vulnerability where a malicious user sends raw SQL commands embedded in input fields with the goal of manipulating your database. Example of a bad vulnerable query. So query, select from users where email equals, and then I take in that variable that the user inputs in. Okay, if user input is anything or 1 equals 1, the resulting query becomes select all from users where email equals anything or 1 equals 1. Now, instead of filtering by email, it selects all users. This always evaluates to true. Okay, so in the worst case, attacker could delete the table, drop the database, access sensitive data. Okay, so okay, but how does those question marks actually prevent against this? I see what's going on. I'm now trying to think about, okay, well, how does the question marks actually protect against that? I'm guessing that what's going to happen is the question marks are a way of enforcing a rule or something. I'm not sure. So they enable parameterized queries using prepared statements, which separate the query structure from its data. Ensures that even if name contains weird SQL-like strings, it's treated strictly as data, not executable code. So, okay, let's dissect this. Tells MySQL you want to add a new... Okay. So now we're going to the second question that I have. Tells MySQL you want to add a new record into users table. Okay, that's fine, I guess. I don't know why. Name, email, values, supplies the actual values to insert. Timothy will go in the name column. Okay, this will go in the email column. So this is like the first value aligns with that value. This value aligns with that value. Okay. Okay, I mean, I kind of generally get it. Um, I think I'm going to leave the video off here because I cannot focus. I think I realized why I can't focus. I haven't eaten in like 2 days almost now. No, it would just be 1 24 hour. I don't know. Anyways, I haven't eaten in a long time. I had like what, a sandwich or something yesterday. And then today I woke up and had nothing. And I just realized like, oh, okay, that's probably why. But anyways, so yeah, I can't quite focus. But I think I kind of understand what's going on here. And in the next video, we will be able to move this forward and see if we can get it better. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, subscribe. My name is Timothy Lee Grant, and I am off to go do some leak code. So, woo, yeah, let's do some leak code. All right, see you guys.